I just want to thank the committee for taking all these public comments. My name is Jimmy Soto. I am the Executive Director for the Independent Living Center of Kern County. And if I can kind of summarize the whole issue with Assembly Bill 2565 and what Rudy Salas was mentioning, the problem is the code. The code is so outdated, and as a matter of fact, it's not even being followed. That's how outdated it is. The Assembly
Bill... would like to offer one clarification. We welcome your testimony about an issue of need, but we are not agendized to discuss that bill in particular. Today we're talking about independent living centers and budget change proposals, but we appreciate your testimony.
Sure.
Thank you.
So my center, the Independent Living Center of Kern County, is one of the centers that does not receive this base rate funding. You know, Kern County serves 8,125 square miles. So to put that in perspective, Sacramento County is 995 square miles. So there's a ninefold area that we're supposed to be serving. We just don't have the staff. We don't have the bodies to do the work. We have 3 employees to provide 7 core services. And to be honest, I'm probably shooting myself in the foot. It's just not happening. We don't have the bodies to do this work. You know, each staff member has about 100 people just in housing. That has nothing to do with the other 6 core services we're supposed to be providing. We need this funding to reach the rural areas of Kern County. 97% of the people that we actually serve that have disabilities live within the city of Bakersfield, and that's because our office is in Bakersfield and because there's transportation within the city of Bakersfield. But outside that, there's no transportation. There's no way to reach out in that area. So, you know, this is an important issue for Kern County. We just don't have the bodies to do the work. And I think that one of the things that would really benefit, and I know what I would do with these dollars, is hire a transitions coordinator, helping people with disabilities get out of nursing homes. That's going to save taxpayer dollars. And I think it's a win-win. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Favuzzi. I'm the Executive Director of the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers. On behalf of the 23 members of our foundation, we are in full support of the independent living, the 3 independent living centers getting the additional funding. So we want to make that clear that the centers are behind this effort, even though to essentially get some equity in the funding formula. And we appreciate you listening to those issues. We also want to make it clear that we are in support of the TBI budget change proposal, and we would ask you to consider the second proposal as well. That would much better meet the emerging needs of people with traumatic brain injury. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Evelyn Abu Hassan with Disability Rights California. We're a cross-disability organization. I just want to echo Ms. Vuzzi's comments. We are in support of both of those proposals. We're also in support of the WIOA proposal, and we echo the comments that were made by Mr. Sandberg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Emoto, California Disability Senior Community Action Network and the California Person-Centered Advocacy Partnership. I want to echo our support for the administration's proposals regarding the traumatic brain injury funding and also the competitive integrated employment, but also echo the comments of the other advocates for additional resources for TBI that are needed. Lastly, want to support Assembly Member Salas's proposal for the funding for those independent living centers. And lastly, just want to thank the efforts of the department, particularly Joe Xavier and his team in working with all of us in the past couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Chance, and my husband sustained a traumatic brain injury in 2006 when he was struck by a motorcycle going 55 miles an hour while he was working on the road. He did not receive treatment for the cognitive issues that he sustained in that accident for 3 years. And it took he's caught up in the workers' comp system, which is a whole other issue, but it took 3 years, and he had to go all the way to Bakersfield and live away from his support system to a private facility to receive services for his traumatic brain injury. 3 years later, a lot of damage was done that could not be undone. My husband will never be the same. And so I'm here to say I support, obviously, the funding, more funding for people with TBI, and I support trying to find a way to make all of these systems come together so people can get the services that they need instead of being siloed, because it was almost as traumatizing for him to have to go all the way away from home, from the people who he felt safe with, as it was to get the services he needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is John Short. I'm a disabled veteran that sustained a traumatic brain injury while in service for the United States Coast Guard. On November 27, 1980, a shipmate and myself were given an order to perform a single, simple, common, and ordinary task that changed my life forever. On this miserable Seattle rainy day, I carried forth the command of transferring a 350-pound tarp from the pier to the ship. As we were lifting this tarp, my partner tripped, letting go of the mass, falling on me, shoving me off the pier, and falling 30 feet, landing head first on a log that prevents the ship from surging against the pier. By God's grace, in a glancing blow, I woke up in the water with no air in my lungs, sinking 40 feet while unconscious, laden in a zipped-up foul-weather jacket and work boots. Seeing no blood in the water and finding where up was by a single shining spot glimmering through the murky abyss I was descending in. I started kicking with all my might, wanting to take a breath of air that was only water. My head popped to the surface. I missed the log. I am still alive. My training worked. In subsequent denial and shock, I told the command I felt no pain and resumed my duties without medical care. Besides, there was no medical staff on board, and civilian medical care was no option under the circumstances. As a person with a traumatic brain injury, I got affiliated with Freed about 6 months ago, and I've had a 35-year battle with my traumatic brain injury that has disrupted my life in ways I never knew. Up until 9 months ago, I never knew it was there. The VA discovered this, and since then, the help that I've gotten through the VA has been very minimal. They told me I have a TBI, and they said, if you want to go to get any help, you've got to travel here, travel to Reno, travel to Mather, so on and so forth. I live in Grass Valley. I have a very limited income, and Freed has been my only outlet for sustaining support with my traumatic brain injury. I cannot express the importance to me and other people in the communities. If we really want to address the mental health issue in our country, knowing that there are approximately 1.5 million people in the United States with traumatic brain injuries, I feel we need to address this and provide funding for this virtual need for people with traumatic brain injuries, because I know for a fact that people like myself have mental issues that can sometimes be triggered to the point to where we act irrationally and may possibly do things that may be harmful to other people. Through the support, through the TBI program, through Freed, I have gained a new insight in myself as to how my brain functions and what it does. And at the same time, it's new to me. I'm learning all over. I'm 56 years old. The government let me down. They did not fulfill their contract with me when I was in service. I live with that. I have some resentment towards it, but I am asking and pleading and begging that you congressional leaders across our entire country start addressing the mental health issues that are prevailing in our country. We are not going to stop this stuff, a lot of these killings and everything else, until this is done. And traumatic brain injuries are probably a part of that scenario that causes people to flip out and do some of the things they do. I know. I flipped out with the Veterans Administration when I found out that my spinal condition from the fall, which I have an incomplete spinal problem. I have 14 vertebrae that are destroyed in my spine. along with a severe traumatic brain injury. I cannot stress the importance of community outreach to people with traumatic brain injuries because they have a hard time helping themselves. They need support from the community and through programs like FREED. So I am just asking that you please find it in your heart to at least find $1 out of every traffic ticket or whatever to go towards the funding of traumatic brain injuries, not just in California, but this needs to be addressed across our entire nation. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your testimony. You know, today the committee won't be taking action on the proposal, but leading up to the mid-year revise is with a time period where there will be discussions about all of the proposals. I just wanted to thank you, one, for your service to our country, and thank you for your powerful testimony today. And one of my staff is here today. I'm going to ask him to check in with you briefly to determine if there are ways that that this body can be helpful to you, that our office, and reconnecting with your assembly member to see if there are ways that we can be helpful to you going forward. Thank you.
For giving me or allowing me the opportunity to stand before you and speak.
I think you've earned it, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Xavier. Did you have anything that you wanted to close with on? We did cover a number of subjects. Is there anything that you wanted to close with?
Just to say thank you for your time and the opportunity to address you. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to the ongoing testimony. Thank you to all those. Thank you, Assemblymember Salas. We are moving on to issue number 2, a departmental overview of the Department of Developmental Services, and there are some budget change proposals. As our witnesses come forward, I want to encourage you to be brief in your overview, recognizing that our committee is short in number, but somewhat informed about the department, but always glad to have you here, and we look forward to your testimony. We're honored to have our acting director and your team. We look forward to your testimony when you're ready.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I'm Mike Wilkening. I'm the Undersecretary of Health and Human Services for California and Acting Director of the Department of Developmental Services. The agenda does a really good job of laying out the overview of the department, including the budgetary context and the reductions that the department had during the economic downturn. I'm going to skip through all of that aspect of it and instead take the opportunity to say that I'm pleased that the legislature passed the expenditure package for DDS. It infuses approximately $300 million general fund into the system, and when you account for the matching funds that we expect to get from the federal government, the total is going to be closer to $500 million in resources that are much needed for relief. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the stakeholders' efforts in this, and especially those of CDCAN and the Person-Centered Advocacy Partnership, the Lanterman Coalition, and Disability Rights Advocates. They were instrumental in being able to explain this, to really advocate on behalf of the recipients and really help to push the package forward. And so we think that they were instrumental in getting the legislature and the administration into a place where we could all agree on a package that was much needed. I'm also pleased to say that Nancy Bargeman will be coming back to the department, and that on April 4th she will be coming in as the next director of the department. She brings a wealth of experience in all facets of the department. She's been at the Department of Developmental Services. She's been in the regional centers. She's developed resources and housing in the community, and we think that she's absolutely the right person to help move the system forward as we look to transition from the developmental centers and to increase the capacity and strengthen the community system. With me, I have John Doyle, the Chief Deputy of the department, and Jim Knight, the Assistant Deputy Director for Community Services, to do the presentations.
Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to walk through very briefly the proposals that we've included in our headquarters budget. We have 4 proposals as well as the agenda, includes one item related to Porterville. And I understand that while we're not talking about the developmental centers today and will be discussed, those issues will be discussed at another hearing, I will talk briefly about that proposal. One of the things the department is requesting is additional resources to assist in the developmental center closure efforts. We're currently in the process of closing all 3 developmental centers. The plan for the closure of Sonoma has been submitted. It was submitted October 1st, 2015, and we are planning to submit the closure plan for Fairview and Porterville on April 1st. In order to meet the additional workload related with these multiple closures, we're requesting $2.1 million total funds and 8 new positions in addition to 5 positions that we're going to be redirecting. These resources are going to assist us in working on consumer programs, supporting layoff activities, resolving workers' compensation claims, reconciling all the personnel and payroll issues that have to be handled, and working with families and residents as the transition occurs. Our next proposal is for the development of a fiscal and program research unit within the department. We receive a number of requests annually for information, and we don't have dedicated positions to comply with those requests. So what the budget proposes is 7 new positions and funding for 1 vacant position that we currently have, so a total of 8 positions, and $900,000 to develop this unit. The unit will allow faster response to requests for information and is expected to improve transparency on how funds are spent, and with more thorough data analysis, we expect it will also improve the decision-making process. Our next proposal is related to the implementation of the new home and community-based services waiver regulations. The agenda provides more detail regarding this issue in issue number 4, and it's discussed further on page 22. But what we're requesting is $500,000 and 4 positions to accommodate the increased workload that comes with this proposal. We see an increased need for outreach, information sharing within the community, development of training materials, coordinating with stakeholders, statute regulation and policy revisions, service provider assessments in the community, and data collection. The next proposal related to our headquarters is a request for vendor audit positions. These positions were originally approved in 2014-15 as temporary. There are 7 positions. We're proposing to make them permanent. Adding these 7 positions to our existing audit unit allows for us to conduct about 31.5 audits a year. So we're hoping that the extension of these positions will be beneficial. They've proven to be useful in being able to expand our audit reach among vendor agencies. And then the last issue, again, this is related to Porterville, but it's the department is requesting $6.5 million general fund for the construction phase of the fire alarm system at Porterville. What this new alarm system does, as the agenda notes, is it links in 10 buildings, 9 buildings that are utilized by residents, and then the administration building. It links those with the existing 96-bed facility fire alarm system. The preliminary plans and drawings for this proposal were funded in the current year at a cost of about $800,000. So this request is to continue to move the project forward.
Thank you. Anything from Finance? Anything from the LAO's office?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, staff. Meredith Worden with the Analyst's Office. We have reviewed the governor's budget proposals that related to headquarters and find them to be reasonable requests in supporting critical workload for the department, including for developmental center closure activities, as well as compliance with new federal home and community-based services rules. We have no major issues to raise. We would note, however, that we would highlight how important good data and analytical capacity is for strong program oversight and other budget development, policy development, decision-making transparency. And this proposal, as it relates to the Fiscal and Programmatic Research Unit, would help support those efforts. And in that area, as the department develops this capacity, the legislature may wish to weigh in on particular priorities and deliverables for this new unit. Thank you.
Thank you. We're holding this item open, but we do want to hear from the public if there's any public comment on these items. Public comment?
Will Sanford, Futures Explored. I would echo the comments of the LEO. I think it's very critical that the Fiscal and Program Research Unit be there. One of our big challenges is data, as Assistant Director Knight and I have had many conversations about. And I think my concern is on the home and community-based services regulations, that it's not enough. I think there's going to take a lot more to actually make the transition really happen, and we need leadership and support from the state level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hello there, my friend. Tony Thurman, members of the committee. By the way, Mr. Thurman, a late Merry Christmas to you. I meant to say that to you back in Oakland when we met back in December. Rick Hodgkins, I'm a member of Capital People First. I'm also a member of the Department of Developmental Services Consumer Advisory Committee, covering Alpine, Colusa, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, Sierra, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba and Nevada counties, and El Dorado. I just wanted to point out that first off, thanks for voting for the MCO tax. That really means a lot. And second, now that we have funding coming back to our system, we can restore back what we lost back in 2009, such as social recreation, and also, finally, not having to always use generic resources, especially when they don't work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Always glad to have you in Sub 1.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, thank you to all of our witnesses, and thank you for your testimony. We will move on to issue number 3, an overview of the Community Services Division and Governor's proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The agenda does a good job of summarizing some of the proposals that have been included in the governor's budget for 2016-17. In the interest of time, I'd like to focus on some of the major proposals. The first is the proposal to increase compliance with the new home and community-based services waiver regulations. The governor's budget proposes a total of approximately $17 million to ensure that the community has the opportunity to come into compliance with these new regulations as they are being developed. Of that total, $1.6 million is going to be provided to regional centers and operations so that they can hire an additional 21 program evaluators to work with local service providers to ensure that they are moving towards compliance with the new regulations. And the new regulations basically are looking for more integration into the community. The proposal also includes a $15 million pot of funding that we see as a way for providers to come forward to the regional centers, apply for additional funds to help them come into compliance with the new regulations. So if there are service providers out there who are aware that their programs currently may be in jeopardy of meeting the new requirements, they'll be able to request additional funding to come into compliance. Those proposals will be submitted through the regional centers and shared with the department for approval. The next proposal is another increase of $17 million for additional service coordinator positions at the regional centers. One of the things that we heard last year during the budget hearings was the concern of the legislature regarding the high caseload ratios that occur at the developmental or at the regional centers, and the concern that these high ratios may put federal funds at risk. What this proposal attempts to do is provide funding so that there could be approximately 200 new service coordinator positions added to the regional center system to try to bring caseload into line with the expectations of the federal government. The next proposal is the funding we have for the alternative residential model homes. There's a $46 million increase proposed for these homes. Currently, we have rates established for 6-bed ARM rate homes. One of the things that we're finding is that more and more, and this is consistent with the new home and community-based services waiver regulations, more and more these homes are finding that only 4 consumers are being referred to them for residential placement. And that's in keeping with giving people more independence, giving them their own rooms and things. So what this model does is it attempts to account for that fact, and so it establishes we will maintain the 6-bed ARM rate model, but this new 4-bed model will be available for providers to, again, try to better work towards compliance with the new waiver regulations. And then finally, the budget also includes an increase for the minimum wage that took effect January 1st. So there's a proposed total of $62.4 million in purchase of service funding to meet the new minimum wage requirement of going from $9 to $10 an hour. In addition to these proposals, the department is also proposing a couple of pieces of trailer bill language, as the agenda notes on page 20. There is some cleanup language that's being proposed related to the Early Start program. Basically, what we're doing there is during the time that that Early Start funding was reduced, the department developed a prevention program for infants and toddlers that were at risk. The proposed language repeals the requirement that regional centers refer at-risk babies to family resource centers, and that the department contract with family resource centers to provide outreach and information and referral services. So this language is basically, we're just striking the old statute because it's no longer necessary, since the Early Start program has been restored to its former levels. The second piece is the intent language related to the new home and community-based services waiver regulations. Again, the regulations were issued in March of 2014. We have until March of 2019 to come in compliance with those regulations. And so the intent of this language is just to allow DDS the ability to make program changes in a timely manner and pending future regulations.